So we're going to get into this right now. So thank each and every single one of you for being here. It is now 3 o'clock. So, and again, it's going to be a great day. We have the Jerome here with us today, and he's just going to share, his story ultimately, and more importantly, how he was able to thrive and pivot in business with, this thing called COVID being here and the pandemic, right? Because and again, I just want to say thank you, Jerome, for even just saying yes to this invitation, because the way this whole thing really got started is, sitting there thinking, you know what I mean, and wanted to kind of create a project, how looking at other businesses really close and shut their doors because of COVID, right? Based on what the government says, kind of, okay, great. Maybe you'll shut the doors. And it's like, well, if nothing changes, if there's no one there to kind of, interrupt that, so to speak, a lot more businesses will be shut down. A lot more families may not be supported. So I say, what can I do to support and kind of make a difference in the community so that other business owners and entrepreneurs can continue to thrive? And that's when, again, I kind of just saw what you're doing on Instagram, really just making a difference, hitting, massive awards, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know what? Jerome's doing something. So I said, what a great or a unique opportunity for me to kind of just reach out to you, check in with you and see if you'd be willing to, also support me making this difference. And so that was the invitation. So thank you for that. And really just thank you for being here. You're on mute, Jerome.
Sorry about that, guys. No, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And just even the title and how to thrive in business, one of the main things I would say is doing talks like this and having some content out there. I see a lot of your stuff. It's very inspiring, very motivating, very upbeat. And it's kind of exactly the same type of vibe I try to put out there, the energy I try to put out there. So excited to be here.
All right, powerful, man. Well, thank you. I got all that acknowledgement, so thank you so much for that. And again, the intention of today is really just to provide hope and inspiration for, other entrepreneurs, other business owners out there to know that, what the dream that you once had, it's still there. You know what I mean? And that's the intention of today's conversation.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah.
All right, so Jerome, I don't know, we want to kind of learn and hear a little bit more about you. What had you get started into, the world of mortgages?
Yeah. A long and winding journey. It wasn't, I don't think anyone really, as a child says, I want to grow up and be a mortgage broker, right? Or a mortgage agent. It's just, I kind of ended up here, but there was a long pathway of kind of corporate 9-to-5 jobs where I wasn't really satisfied with what I was doing. And I wanted to do something where, one, I'd be helping people, and two, I would kind of be able to be my own boss. That sounds a little bit cliche, but a lot of times if you're working 9-to-5, you do kind of it gets a little bit exhausting and repetitive at sometimes. And I'm sure everyone's been in this position before where you're like, I could probably do what my boss does, but you just don't have that opportunity, right? So this is where self-employment is huge for people like myself, who, if you want to be your own boss, do it. You're now your own boss. You kind of steer your own ship, do things your way. And it really allows you to kind of experiment with business and some of the stuff we're going to talk about a little bit later with COVID and how do you keep your business running. It's really, everything's on your shoulders and you can kind of take charge and see what works and what doesn't work. And I like that freedom.
That's powerful. And you're right. Like, I feel like many people will be there, working the 9-to-5, working their job. And it's like, they have their opinions like, I could do it way better than they're doing. You know what I mean? They're doing it all wrong. Yeah. Exactly. So, right. So I totally get that journey and how people typically do get started in business. And then it's not till you're really immersed in it, we actually see like, oh, there's a lot more work than, the role in which you've had. Right. So I'm glad that we'll kind of speak into the whole thing with COVID and how to pivot, because, from one set of lens, it may look simple, but until you're actually in that position, those are like the untold truths about what business and running a business really looks like.
Very true.
Right. Yeah. So thank you for bringing that forth 100%. So I don't know. Thank you for sharing that, the journey of how you got started. And I don't know, what was business like prior to COVID? It's funny how like COVID is a thing now. Like COVID has like its own name.
Its own generation. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know, what was life like before that in the world of business and stuff?
Before COVID, I mean, it's funny because as of today, it's been about a year since COVID, but it feels like it's such a foreign time, like 5-10 years ago.
It's true.
It's been, yeah, very slow. It was good before COVID. It was good. Everything was kind of normal. I was learning. I'm in a business where you're kind of learning every day. So I was learning how to be a better mortgage agent, how to better assist my clients and their families. And then boom, pandemic hit. So now it's learning curve and another learning curve, how to do this during COVID, what has to change. I actually think for me, myself, it actually was kind of a bit of an advantage because I've been doing mortgages for about 4 years now. So I'm fairly new as a mortgage agent compared to some people that have been doing it 10, 20 years. So they may be in a position where they've been doing it for so long, they're not really adaptable to change because they're set and they know exactly what they're doing. But for me, it was like, I'm new at this, and now this is a new kind of thing to deal with that I can adapt maybe a little bit easier than people that have been doing this for years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's huge. And, I've heard it said many times, you know what I mean? Like, the longer you've been in business, not so much like the longer you've been in business, but, the larger the organization which you may have, it's kind of a bit tougher to kind of, reorientate that ship, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like think of, the big old cruise ships, the first thought that comes to my mind, like the big old cruise ships. And then, you have a little, I don't know, maybe a sailboat, for lack of better words. It's a lot easier for the sailboat to kind of, pivot, move, change direction, where, the cruise ship, it will take some time for it to kind of reorientate itself. So what I'm hearing too, and what you're sharing is that, the fact that you're kind of, not just getting started, because I feel like you do have a certain level of foundation, but
for sure,
it's a lot quicker for you to, pivot, change, let's, take this out, implement this. And it's one of those things where, the saying is, teach, I don't know how the saying goes, but, it's tough to teach an old dog new tricks.
Exactly.
Something along those effects, right? Mm-hmm. So it's great that you're able to kind of, pick up on that, let's pivot, let's change. So, but even before going through all that too, like, what was like client interactions like, prior to COVID and stuff like that, and like learn, like how was that?
So it's prior to COVID, it was definitely a lot of face-to-face, and that's kind of where I thrived, right? So I loved meeting people in person, sitting down, looking them eye to eye. The main thing about both of our businesses, I feel, is trust. You have to kind of establish trust. And I think that's a lot easier to do when you're sitting across the table with someone, right? So
100%.
That was what was kind of missing, and where we kind of had to sit down and say, what are we going to do to kind of develop that rapport with clients, for them to even trust you with such a huge decision when all you can do is kind of call, right? So again, it comes into, I want to be more active in getting my face out there, putting out valuable content so people know that I'm not just here today, gone tomorrow type of thing. I want to be kind of a go-to person. Oh, I heard this. I remember he said this. But it did move a lot to Zoom calls and phone calls and things of that nature. So really had to strengthen your phone game and your Zoom game, because you don't have that presence where you're meeting someone for coffee or sitting down and discussing their strategy that way.
Sure,
and I'm curious for you, how have you found it?
Yeah, no, 100%. I was going to say, like, that was one of the challenges for me. I mean, once it all started, it's like, I love people. Love people, love being with people, sitting across people, everything that you've mentioned, that is me. And I feel like I gained one's energy, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Just being with them, right? And you can only gain so much of that interaction, over a phone. So what was there for me as a challenge was, how do I interact? How do I connect? How do I still build this trust with people, in a virtual setting? Will the clients even appreciate this? You know what I mean? Because we're talking money in these cases, you know what I mean? Whether it be, small amounts or large amounts, but it's dear for people. So how do you have that conversation with people's, finances over the thing called the internet?
Yes.
Where people are already a little skeptical around, I don't want my information on the internet as it is. So that was a challenge that I had to kind of overcome, right? Personally, like just dealing with it. And I'd say what may have supported or helped it is the fact that we were just there for so long, and that's just the way the world moved. I found that clients were just a bit more receptive to, all right, this is the way the world is looking right now.
It's the new normal, right? Everyone's
and that's
kind of adapting. Yeah.
Right. So I'd say, I don't know, with time, it became a bit easier to interact. And even when doing these settings now, I love the video aspect. You know what I mean? So I say, if you keep doing video, great, let's do a Zoom. And if you don't want to, show your face because, whatever the case is, you got to put the makeup on or what, like, whatever. I'm on video. And I just love that level of interaction, right? So,
Yeah.
that was one challenge that I had that I've, had to overcome and overcame. And I'm kind of hearing the exact same thing, I guess for you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Actually, what you said about people turning off their cameras, that's been one of the hard things for me, because I do now have these Zoom seminars where I'll talk to first-time home buyers every now and then, but it's difficult when no one has their camera on. Like, it's really, because right now we're talking, it's very conversational. And when I would present in person, I like it to be interactional, right? So I would ask a lot of questions. What do you think about this? How do you feel about this? And kind of work with the crowd. You can't do that on Zoom. So that's kind of something. And I used to, when I went on Zoom, I would still just kind of do my same old asking questions, but you're getting dead silence back. So you have to kind of adapt with the times and kind of switch your presentation that way. So that was one of the hard parts for me, because it's much easier. Like right now, we're just talking, it's just a conversation. And that's how I like to get information across in a casual setting, but it's a lot harder when it's a presentation as against a conversation, right? So
for sure.
kind of mixing the two of those together is one of the main things that we had to change.
100%. Excellent, man. Thank you. That's powerful. And now I just want to check in too, almost like changing gears, like, in our businesses, it's, not just looking for prospects or clients, and servicing them, but it's like, how has that, I guess, what did you have to do differently now that, this thing called COVID's here and it's a digital era? Because for me, it's, where the networking events at, you know what I mean? Or maybe I'm just meeting, almost random people, so to quote, in the coffee shop, whatever the case is. But there's different events and such I could always go to, or even just communities, because I play soccer. So it's like, I have my soccer community that I could kind of play with, you know what I mean? And, kind of build these level of relationships. But now that everything's kind of come to a halt, and again, you've achieved, massive success last year. What worked for you when it came to, I guess, bringing in new clients and bringing in new business? Like, what did you have to alter?
So this answer is not specific to the digital era. I want to give an answer that I talk about just really about being self-employed and kind of having your own business. And it's really interesting, because I feel you work very hard to get past your 9-to-5 job. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I always tell people, if you're working a 9-to-5 job, you should be, Gary Vee said this, concentrating on your 9-to-5, and then your 5-to-9, you should be working on what you want to do next, what your next business is. So I find you work really hard to get away from your 9-to-5 to save enough money to start whatever project is you want to do. But my best advice to new starters in any industry, when you have the freedom to do what you want, whatever that may be, try to structure yourself like a 9-to-5. And that really was one of the, it's funny that you want to get away from it, but it really worked for me, especially at the beginning stages when you may not have your phone ringing with people asking you mortgage questions all the time or insurance questions all the time. And it's just, you're kind of sitting there like twiddling your thumbs, right? And people would say, stay busy, but what is that? So for myself, I actually would say, you know what? I'm going to wake up at 8 a.m. like I normally would, start at 9, start at 5, and then I would start kind of breaking my days into pieces. So maybe the first 2 hours, you write yourself a schedule. This is the content that I want to make. This is the content that I want to put out, and just kind of segmenting my day. Whereas this is the advertising, planning, and just sticking to that schedule until you're busy enough that you don't have to. That really, really made a difference for me.
Wow. That's amazing. So what I'm hearing, especially for, again, as you mentioned already, almost to echo what you said, but to, the new business owners out there, or when challenges come up, it's like really just reassessing, what does my schedule look like? Because again, I was a victim of it, 100%. You know what I mean? Like, let me do my own thing. It's like, Marcus, what are you doing today? I don't know. Yeah. I'll get to it. I'll get to work. You know what I mean? I'll get to work when I feel like getting to work. But it's powerfully really scheduling yourself as if you were 9-to-5. It was a non-negotiable, when you're working the 9-to-5. I got to get up. I got to make sure I'm at work at this time. And then it's putting the work in, period. I'll clock out when it's time to clock out. Right?
Very true. And it is a discipline thing as well, because we don't have a set schedule where I could sleep in every day till 12, or, hey man, like I can work from 12 to 9 or whatever. But I feel like really just getting your mind in that set that these are my working hours. And on the reverse end, that was really for the beginning of my transitional years. Now where I'm actually busy and I have multiple families that I'm helping at the same time. It's funny because there's always something that can be done. So I can work all day long, but it's for my own mental health, at 5 o'clock to say, no, I'm done. I'm putting it down. So to know you've worked hard for 9 hours and I'm going to save this for tomorrow, I think is very important. So you don't kind of overexhaust yourself. So on both ends, the scheduling has really helped myself, and you can kind of amend it as you go along.
I think that's so important, especially for mental health. I mean, as you mentioned, because I remember when, the COVID thing did start, because again, I'd always go to an office, right? And then it's like, well, the home is now the office, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, for me, it's almost like you're always at work,
Yeah,
right? So I
exactly.
found that I was actually like literally burning the candle on, to like really like, sun up to sundown and even
Yep.
longer, because there's always something to do, like you said. So it's like,
Yep.
well, when do you clock out? Like when do you have
Yeah.
time for you? When do you, so like, I love what you said, which is really, so important, really just like, you know what, that's it for today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've got through your to-do list or not and said,
Yeah.
but this is it. Let me take some
Exactly.
time for my well-being and get back into it. You got to check out sometimes to really check in, because if you're not,
100%.
mentally sound, then forget it. Like the next day or the work in which you're doing is from like an exhausted energy. And then your clients, they're not
Oh
receiving the
yeah.
best of you. So
Exactly.
that was powerful, man. Thank you for sharing that.
No,
All
thanks. And
right.
you get it, man. You definitely get it. I feel like we're talking the same things here.
There we go. There we go. I think I had a few questions. I don't know. So I have one question here, which I'll get back to, but I don't know. I kind of want you to talk about, I guess, the successes, your accomplishments last year. You know what I mean? And, not like how did that come about, or you can even touch on that too. But, all that in hopes that we're not, to really act as an inspiration for others, really just listening that, whatever happened, happened. And, I was still able to achieve, awards and accomplishments. So it's not to say that, I'm a victim or, this circumstance happened, so I can't achieve X. And you've did it and you've excelled. So to communicate concisely,
Yeah.
what is that you did to really like powerfully, achieve the reward that you did last year, and speak about that.
Yeah. So I mean, there's two parts of my business. I kind of feel like my niche is first time home buyers. I
Mm,
really like seeing things from start to finish. So getting you into your first house and then seeing when that renewal comes up, now what your house is worth, what's the value, and kind of watching people like shocked at the market in Toronto. Wow, my house is worth this now. We can refinance, we can take money out, we can consolidate debt. All this. This is when the financial strategy, someone like yourself might even be involved in these conversations. I really like seeing things from start to finish. I find it very rewarding, but also there are investor clients who want 2, 3, 4 different properties. So what I would say is that the biggest difference during COVID is that it was less people getting their foot in the door and more investors or people that already own properties that were looking at what I can do now because the interest rates had dropped. Right. So I actually had a very good year focusing on my investor clients. So I
wow.
recently got inducted into the Mortgage Alliance Master Club, talking about accomplishments. So that's the top 20% in the country as of this year. So that just happened.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you for that. But that it really was saying the world is going crazy. What is positive? What is the positive we can focus on, right? And the positive was because the economy was doing so poorly, the interest rates were amazing. So that was an opportunity for all my investor clients, anyone that's even investment minded, because they're giving away money for free. Anything under 2% in the investment world is gold if you want to use that money to make more, right? Because you're only fighting against less than 2%. So anyone who had equity built up over time, because the real estate market really didn't suffer too much, your values were still going up. And now there's this equity there that's trapped. And so what I kind of did in my strategy was finding the clients that may have trapped equity. How can we get this out so you're in a better position through the pandemic? And then when the pandemic ends, right? Where are we going to take this? Let's take advantage of these low interest rates. So I was able to kind of remain fairly successful at work, just focusing on the positives, which was the low interest rates, right? And how to take advantage of it for my clients and previous clients.
That's amazing. So what I'm gonna say too, just to even add to that, is in case someone may have missed it, right? So again, this is for anyone, in business and going through a challenge, right? Because they always say in life too, either going in a storm, you're going into a storm, you're in a storm or coming out of a storm. So
Mm-hmm.
what I want to kind of echo there is, even in the situation that you're in, you kept the mindset of optimism. What opportunities there? What's available, right? And not so focused on something's not work. You know what I mean? So it's really focusing on what opportunities available, not just for myself, but for the clients in which I work with, and then catering to that opportunity. And, it's been said, if you help enough people get what they want, by virtue, get what you want. So you've really just repositioned your actions to, okay, you know what, this is where we're in right now. People may need, more finances to kind of get them through the season. So, what opportunities are there for me to support them? And then you look to, equity, really supporting and servicing those clients, and, they're happy and, you're happy, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's really shifting one's mindset to powerfully focus on what opportunities are available. Because I'm a strong believer that there's always opportunity in any and every situation. Are you willing to look there? And it's evident that you were willing to look there. That's
Thanks,
beautiful.
Man. Very true. Very true.
Excellent. So I don't know, I just want to check in too, like, what fulfills you in the work and in which you do? Like, I'll keep it at that. Like, what fulfills you? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's the same thing, seeing people from start to finish, but what I really enjoy and what I'm starting to see more now of is people that didn't think they could even get into the housing market that have the house now, and like, I can do this, really just believing in themselves, and now they want to be investors. So getting someone who thought I'm never going to be a homeowner renting, and kind of start, I'm sure you've done this before, where we make a strategy, debt consolidation, getting you to your first house. And then when they get there, they're like, why stop now? And I really love that. It's like, wow, good for you. You know what it takes now, the discipline it takes to even save for a down payment. And now that you have one, you want another one. And this is really helping people with financial freedom over time. And it does make a huge difference in people's lives if they can kind of get their mind in that investment minded sense. So I really am fulfilled by that. And I even like friends of mine who I would have never thought would want to be in real estate or real estate investing slowly is coming along. And when I get comments and people saying, I never thought about that, or if I put a video out or some content and someone's like, I never thought about that, that's a good idea, I'm going to apply this to myself, really makes me feel good. And I'm not sure if you've struggled with this, because this is something that I've struggled with in kind of transitioning to this whole Instagram personalities, is that I didn't want to come off as a commercial, right? And it's hard because it's a mortgage business. Half the time people want to know what the best rate is. And it's just hard not to just constantly post my rates. These are the rates today, right? And then I feel like that's just not how you really want to brand yourself, because then you're a commercial. So when I decided I'm going to sit down and start doing these videos, I said, what would I want to see? What do people want to see? What's positive? So it's not really always about mortgage. It might be about just really, what's a good example? I could scroll through your page for a million good examples because you do an awesome job of it, but things that people just want to hear and help them in business, maybe not at all real estate related. And then I started doing these shows where I would meet with professionals like yourself. I had some financial advisors that I met with. And again, we just talk, and questions that I myself had, because I'm no expert in the insurance field, I would ask them. And then I feel like that gave people value to kind of tune in and see that as well.
That's powerful. And I got your acknowledgement. So thank you for that too. And I think that's what we're doing right now as well. Really just providing value outside of whatever. So I totally get, you know what I mean? I don't want to come across as that commercial either. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, sell here, sell here, sell here. You know what I mean? So it's like, so what I've also learned too, and you touched on it earlier in the beginning, prior to this, thing called COVID, it was very, trust-based, very relationship-based, very like with people. So it's now bringing that level of, trust and relationships now to that digital aspect. And what does that look like? It looks like having conversations. It looks like communicating. It looks like getting, related to people, right? Because, even if we were always meeting in person, like prior to COVID, and every time I came to you, it's like, these are my rates, you need this. It's kind of like, whoa, you say hi to me yet?
Exactly.
Right. So I totally get it. So now it's really just shifting that, aspect to like the digital area. So yes. So, was that a challenge for me at first? Yes, 100%. And it's, really, and I love what you said too, because you started saying, the thing about like, what do other people actually want? Right. So I think that was a message in itself. Like, you're just dropping gems here, from beginning to end. And again, I just pray that, again, as an inspiration, those who are listening, that they're really just taking away all these points, because again, there'll come a time in your business where there may be challenges. And it's, well, what do I got to do now to pivot to thrive? Not give up, remain optimistic, really look for the opportunities. And you want to create that powerful schedule. Everything you've touched on, Jerome, I think is really just like gold to what success looks like.
Thanks, man. It means a lot. You're a really good anchor, I should say. I feel like I'm on a news channel right now, the way that you're just throwing these at me.
Like I got that acknowledgement too, man. I got that one too. I don't know. That kind of sums up, I guess, the bulk of the questions and that I kind of wanted to ask you. And I feel like, again, we've touched on so much with respect to, like how to thrive in business, in the world of business and entrepreneurship. And I guess I'll just ask, like, is there anything there, like at the tip of your tongue? It's like, you know what? I feel like people need to hear this. So, or, I always hear this question too sometimes. Like if someone were to, meet you in an elevator, it's like, yo, Jerome, man, this is my business. I just need some support. I don't know. What advice would you give them?
So the advice I would give is really that regardless of what the business is, regardless of what the plan is, if it's real estate, you don't know what you don't know. So getting started is really just tuning into something like this, asking questions, meeting with professionals like yourself or myself. And like, we're not like, it may seem intimidating to reach out to a stranger, but we were strangers before we were friends, right? All it took was one message. Hey, let's talk. And here we are doing this, right? It really is about a community and helping each other. So don't be afraid to ask questions. If it is real estate related and you're trying to get your foot in the door, a lot of people think, well, I don't have a down payment saved. Why should I have this conversation? But I think the exact opposite. You should always have a plan to get where you're going. Start talking to people. I have no problem talking to people all day in my DMs or emails and kind of giving advice, because that's what I do, right? And I enjoy seeing people kind of get to their goals and holding people accountable. So I do feel some people really just want someone to hold them accountable. I did a live last week and I got some messages. Hey, I really like the content. I just want to tell you a little bit about what I've been doing. I don't think I'm going to be purchasing for another 3 to 5 years because this, and that. And we kind of talked about what they came from and where they're headed. And I really feel at the end of the conversation, they just wanted me to kind of hold them accountable. I try to give them some gems, some advice, but I said, you know what, this is an awesome plan. I'm going to check back in with you in 6 months to a year. And I want to see that you've made the progress that you've kind of put forward, right? So a lot of people just want someone there in their corner, and professionals like me, myself, and you are available for that. So that's the advice I would give to anyone kind of thinking about doing whatever it is that you want to do.
Well, man, again, just even in that, there's like 10 nuggets that I kind of like pulled away from it. You're just like a walking inspiration. And what was I going to say? There's something there that was like at the tip of my tongue, and then I talked too much. It was so juicy. It was so good. And it just slipped me. Man. Crap, I'm trying to like circle back because there's something you said. Okay, it's gone. If it comes back, I'll speak it. It will when the video's off.
Yeah.
But I think that's what it was. So that's what it was. Like, I'm just so hearing, especially in your business, being service driven, and really anyone in business, it really is about relationships. People buy, who you are, not so much what you are. So really just hearing how you communicate and talking about, really just want to like hold someone's hand, keep them accountable. Like, I'm not ready to do business with you yet because this is what my plan looks like. You're like, no problem. Like, I'll check back with you. I'll check back in with you in X amount of time, and let's remain friends. And that's so powerful. So like, I don't know, I just really acknowledge you for, who you are, not just in your industry, but ultimately as a human being. You mean your stand to really, have others achieve what they deem as success, right? So just like your stand there and your commitment there, it is inevitable that whatever you're out to achieve, like you, Jerome, it's almost a done deal because you're so committed to having others achieve what they want. And I just want to acknowledge you for that, man. So that's powerful.
That's key. That's very key. I like the way you answered that. It's really good, man. Thanks.
You're welcome. Alrighty, so I don't know if this kind of concludes it, but I'll open it up in case anyone has any questions, and then fire away.
For sure. See, this is what I was talking about.
Oh, there you go. Well, no worries. Again, and what I'll say, I take responsibility for that too, because I didn't create the space or create the context of, you know, a Q&A at the end. Like this was so like, you know, impromptu.
No, for sure, for sure. No, I love it, but it's just like that's why I kind of always have questions ready, but you have questions ready as well. That's awesome. Quick question for you. You said you're a soccer guy. I had no idea. That's my sport too. We might have to link up on the field.
No, we might have to. What position you play?
Center midfield.
All right, cool. So I'm one of the wing backs. So
okay. Yeah,
just don't go. Just don't come to my side. If we're playing against each other. But yeah, if we're on the same squad, we're good. Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Hopefully we'll be on the same team.
100%. You know, it's been a minute. Like I am so rusty. I haven't touched a ball in forever. I don't know. My lungs are probably like shot. So who knows?
Right. And the thing is, just like you said, man. So I would play like four different soccer teams normally. And to me, that's also network building, right?
100%.
In our business, it's just like anywhere you go, if you have that conversation, that could be a potential client or someone that could be helping or someone that just needs advice, right? So that's something that I lost when the pandemic hit as well. There wasn't any soccer teams, any soccer games, and just human interaction, right? And that's we're people person. We kind of thrive in that. So that's definitely one of the things that we kind of had to work to overcome. I would say for
100%,
sure.
100%. Well, soon enough, you know, the weather's getting warmer, you know, this is passing over and yeah, we'll just be with people all over again and, you know, have the barbecues and the sports and 100%. I feel like it's the only place to live.
Yeah.
Powerful, man. Powerful. Well, Jerome, how can people find you? Oh,
sorry. I'm not into soccer, but I do want to ask Jerome a question. In terms of how you pivoted with COVID to find new clients, like what did you do? Like I know you mentioned you focused on clients who had properties so you could leverage the equity. What I gathered from that was that might have been existing clients, or was that new clients? And if it was new clients, what was your strategy with COVID to attract new clients? Was it social media? Was it email marketing? Like what was that strategy of yours to bring in new leads?
Yeah, so mortgage specific, I would say that it was existing clients just because the rate climate took such a deep dive. So any one of my clients who I'd set up in the last year or two, it was worth a conversation to say, you can save money, maybe even by breaking out of your mortgage to get access to these new rates. So that's where I started. I went through my whole client list, having those conversations. And then in those conversations, you kind of always want to ask if there's someone else you can help. And I learned this from one of my mentors who said, you should always be asking that question, either to start or end a conversation. By the way, I know we had this discussion, if you think that this would help anyone that you know, and just kind of asking, you'd be surprised how many times people are like, you know what, my brother's renewal is coming up. Maybe I should see if this makes sense for him as well. The second part of the question was what I did to get new clients. And yes, you're right. It was a lot of social media. So I started doing a weekly Wednesday Instagram live. Funny enough, I wasn't this guy that was in front of the camera prior to COVID. So it kind of forced me to be that guy because I didn't know where else to look. There's no soccer games, there's no networks that I would typically be at. So it was kind of, I had to do this or the business wouldn't have continued. So just like kind of what Marcais does, I had a different professional every week. I kind of held myself accountable where I was very nervous in front of the camera, and people don't really realize that, but I forced myself to do it by putting out ads. I would advertise it because then I wouldn't be able to kind of flop on myself if I was going to be there every Wednesday, and just putting out content that way. I would do the Instagram, just like he said, dropping gems. I would do Instagram lives, I would record them. And then if I found anything, I said anything that I found profound or I thought was very useful, I would chop it up and then use it as content. And I just kind of really kept pushing it out that way to try to stay relevant and attract new customers and clients as well.
Awesome. Thank you. That was amazing. That was helpful. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the question, Vanessa.
Yeah, it was a great question. Thank you, Vanessa. Alrighty, powerful. Any other questions before we conclude and wrap up for today? And I'll take the silence as that everyone is complete. So Jerome, that's what I was saying. So how can people find you before signing off?
Oh, awesome.
What's the best way to, how they can find you and get in contact with you? Go ahead.
So I have a website, jeromestbernard.com. Instagram, probably the best place, at Jerome Does Mortgages. You can find me there, send me a message. Yeah, those are probably the two fastest ways to reach me. So please, if you have any questions, anything that's on your mind, if you just want to talk, shoot me a message and we can do that.
All right, beautiful, man. So again, thank you very much again, Jerome. It's been a pleasure, an honor. I love what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing, and we will do, a lot more of this. So that's for
Awesome.
sure.
I can't wait.
Yes, absolutely, man. Well, have a powerful Saturday. Have a powerful weekend. All of you guys enjoy and have a powerful one.
Thanks so much.